We're going to talk about something now that happened actually during lockdown, and Joanna Marchong, who is Investigations Campaign Manager at the Taxpayer Alliance, is going to take us through it. But Joanna, I mean, this is a really shocking story. It's about 5 Bulgarian fraudsters who raked in £54 million of taxpayers' money from Britain's biggest ever benefit fraud. And actually, it wasn't even the UK that got onto this gang. It was a Bulgarian investigator who said, hold on a second, this is happening. And it happened during the COVID lockdowns. Tell us what happened and how it happened.
So exactly as you said, it was a Bulgarian investigator that realised there was an influx of money in his city, thinking people who are usually quite poor now redeveloping their houses, buying expensive clothes, watches, all these fast cars. And he started the investigation to find out where's all this money coming from, found out that people are actively talking about fleecing the UK government, which is just ridiculous that an abroad investigator would have to originally bring it to the UK's attention, saying, actually, I think I found out that millions of your money is now going abroad.
Tens of millions. Yeah. It hijacked 6,000 identities to make claims for universal credit using the names of children living in Bulgaria as part of a 5-year scam. They set up 3 benefit factories across London, churning out bogus tenancy agreements, counterfeit pay slips, and forged letters from landlords, employees and GPs to trick the Department of Work and Pensions. And you will know, Joanna, that in this election already, we have a lot of people saying, oh, we're going to crack down on benefit frauds, or we're going to crack down on tax dodgers. But, I mean, they didn't notice 54 million quid going missing here.
And it's right what you said about the election, everyone's making promises, but we've heard this promise over and over again. This has been going on for decades. In 2013, universal credit was introduced because they thought the answer and the silver bullet was to reform the actual entire system of benefit, for the benefit system. Mm-hmm. But in fact, you will never be able to fix the system if you don't look at the real problem. And I think the real problem is the administrative process on a whole. You can't bring in initiatives that solve the problem after the case that they've already been introduced. These people have already been approved, receiving money. The government can't look at initiatives that mitigate the problem, which, you know, going after them after the fact that they've received the money. They need to look at these applications and stop them before it's even happened. They need to weed out the fraudulent claims and make sure their system is airtight so that it doesn't happen in the first place.
There will be a lot of people, including disabled people, including carers. I'm sure you're familiar with the scandal recently about carers being absolutely hounded for very small amounts of money, that they've been overpaid. The Department of Work and Pensions made a mistake. Lots of carers, often who live on small incomes, doing work that would cost a lot more for the state to pay, who will look at this, and I mean, some of the detail is astonishing here. Some of these absolute scumbags, one of them had £750,000 in banknotes stuffed in a suitcase in one of their homes. Now, they were eventually hauled in front of a judge, who said that one of them, Galina Nikolova, who is 38, was responsible for at least £25 million lost to the UK taxpayers. And there's so many people who say we need to crack down on benefit fraudsters, and there are people who do play the system. But there are a lot of people out there who are genuinely disabled, who genuinely need the benefit system to work for them. And as a taxpayer, I have absolutely no problem with my taxes going to people who cannot work, who need help. And they will look at this and think, if you cannot, the system, the government, the Department of Work and Pensions, work out that 54 million quid has gone missing, why are you cracking down on people who owe a few £100s?
And this is only a drop in the ocean. They've said this is the biggest benefit fraud scandal. But last year alone, they lost about £6.5 billion to benefit fraud. If you look at benefit fraud and errors, then it brings up the total to about £29 billion, which is a substantial amount of money.
Well, it would pay for a lot of the policies that a lot of the politicians are talking about at the moment.
Think about how long that could fund the NHS, or what vital services are being lost that we could pump back into these things. And what's even more ridiculous is that we think that they can they can obviously think about policies beforehand, but this is very low priority for the government. The Taxpayers Alliance have actually done a research paper called Lifetime Tax, where we look at how much the average household will pay in tax throughout their lifetime, 45 years. That's about £1.2 million for the average household. So if you think about how many people, how many households have to pay their lifetime tax bills in order to make up just what this gang has taken,
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
You're absolutely right, Joanna. Let me talk to Joe Twyman about this, who is the founder of Delta Poll. This whole idea of a kind of broken Britain, a system that doesn't work, that there are people like these Bulgarian fraudsters who raked in 54 million quid, who are, you know, taking the mick, basically. And then you always get, in every election campaign, and we've had it already, I spoke to Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary, the other day. He said, we're going to crack down on this. We're going to crack down on benefit fraudsters. We're going to crack down on, you know, HMRC is going to crack down on people not paying their taxes and so on. To which I asked the inevitable question, well, why haven't you done this over the past 14 years? But nonetheless, I wonder how much of an issue electorally this is, how many people feel that actually it's not just about the money that's spent, but the money that's gone off in different directions and it hasn't been clawed back and should have been spent properly. Do people care about this? Do they engage with this in terms of elections?
There's definitely the recognition that reform needs to take place of welfare and benefits and pensions that go into that. I think part of the difficulty is the amount of money involved, and that's lost on a lot of people. More than £265 billion a year is spent on benefits and pensions.
It's twice the budget of the Ministry of Defence.
It's more than the budget of the NHS. And so when you look at things in those terms, 50 million, though obviously an awful lot of money.
On this particular one, but there's just one of them.
Yeah, exactly. But each one of these individual things is quite difficult to identify. And every time we have an election, we hear how we're going to close loopholes, we're going to stop fraud, etc. But it is incredibly difficult, and so there's a recognition that this needs to take place, though there's no real agreement on the type of reform that needs to take place. And also, there's very little in the way of expectations that it will actually be done.
Joe, thank you. Joe's from Delta Poll, and Joanna Marchong is Investigations Campaign Manager of the Taxpayers Alliance. Thanks for talking to us about this fascinating story and just horrendous as well.